In the shadows of ancient forests and the ruins of magnificent castles, where the whispers of long-forgotten legends drift among the gnarled trees and crumbling stones, the medieval period of human history reaches out to us from across the ages. These forests, ancient and seemingly enchanted, were often the realms of folklore, where mystical creatures were said to roam. Wolves howled in the moonlight, their cries echoing through the misty groves, while travelers spoke in hushed tones of encountering elves, sprites, and other worldly beings lurking in the darkness. To wander through these woods was to step into a world where the boundaries between reality and fantasy blurred, where the roots of the earth seemed to hold the very essence of the old gods and forgotten spirits. Among the underbrush and between the twisted trunks of these ancient trees lay the ruins of mighty castles, once vibrant with the laughter of feasts and the clash of swords but now standing silent, overgrown with ivy and moss. The stone walls, scarred from sieges and battles long past, still held the echoes of lives once lived, of lords and ladies who ruled their lands, of warriors who pledged their swords in service, and of whispers exchanged in secret under the watchful gaze of the moon. Each crumbled tower and weathered gate told its own story, not just of grandeur and power but also of love, betrayal, and the passage of time that reduced all to memory and myth. The medieval era itself was a living paradox, a time of profound contradiction that could not easily be contained within the simple notions of light and darkness, peace and war. It was an age where knowledge and ignorance walked hand in hand, where men and women lived in a world that seemed shaped by both divine providence and earthly despair. It was a time when the iron grip of brutal conflict tore kingdoms apart, scattering lives like leaves in a storm, yet also a time when breathtaking artistry flourished in the corners of the world, illuminating manuscripts and cathedrals with an almost supernatural beauty. This era was a cauldron of creation, where the forces of chaos and order wove together, producing some of the most enduring legacies of human civilization. Join us as we peel back the layers of time, like the worn pages of a 1,000-year-old manuscript, to explore the gritty reality and the soaring spirit of the Middle Ages, a pivotal era that laid the foundation of the world as we know it today. Our journey begins in the secluded monasteries of Europe, places of quiet reverence hidden in the wilderness, where the only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant tolling of church bells. Monks moved like shadows within these stone walls, their lives devoted to the dual pursuits of spiritual salvation and the preservation of knowledge. Their cells were simple, almost austere, with little more than a straw bed, a wooden table, and shelves lined with scrolls and manuscripts. These men of faith, dressed in rough woolen robes, were the keepers of the world's wisdom during a time when the flickering candle of knowledge was in danger of being snuffed out by the darkness of ignorance. With quills fashioned from feathers and ink made from ground minerals, they painstakingly copied ancient texts, their steady hands guided by both faith and discipline. They illuminated the pages with vibrant colors and intricate designs, turning each manuscript into a work of art that glimmered with touches of gold and silver leaf. In those quiet halls, where the air was heavy with the scent of parchment and the solemn murmur of prayers, the seeds of the Renaissance were being planted, destined to grow into a cultural rebirth that would spread across Europe. These monasteries were more than just centers of learning, they were sanctuaries where ancient knowledge was shielded from the ravages of war and time. The monks transcribed not only the sacred texts of Christianity but also the works of Greek philosophers, Roman historians, and Arab scientists. They were the bridges between the ancient world and the future, carrying the torch of enlightenment through the long night of the Dark Ages. It was within these stone walls that the first sparks of curiosity and innovation were kindled, even as the outside world continued to grapple with the rigid constraints of the feudal order. Beyond the monastery walls, the landscape of medieval life was dominated by the rhythms of the feudal system, a structure as unyielding as the mountains and as deeply rooted as the oldest trees. At the top of this hierarchy sat kings and nobles, ruling from their castles that loomed like fortresses against the sky, symbols of their dominion and authority. These castles, surrounded by moats and crowned with towering battlements, were not just homes but fortresses designed to withstand sieges and attacks. They were the heart of political power, where strategies of war were devised, alliances forged, and legacies cemented through dynastic marriages and bloodlines. For the common folk, the peasants and serfs who toiled under the rule of their lords, life was a ceaseless struggle against the elements, famine, and the demands of those who claimed dominion over their lives. These people were bound to the land, living in thatched roof cottages clustered in small villages, where their days began with the crow of the rooster and ended with the setting sun. Their hands were rough from tilling the soil, their backs bent from the weight of their toil, yet within their simple lives lay a profound connection to the earth and to each other. They lived by the cycles of the seasons, planting and harvesting according to nature's calendar, their survival interwoven with the rhythms of the land. But even amidst the hardships, there were moments of joy and togetherness that illuminated their lives. Festivals marked the changing of the seasons and the blessings of the harvest. On these days, the village green would come alive with music and dance, with the sounds of fiddles and lutes mingling with laughter and song. Bonfires were lit, and under the star-speckled sky, tales of heroes, spirits, and mystical creatures were shared, stories that carried the wisdom of ancestors and the echoes of a world where magic still seemed possible. These gatherings were the lifeblood of medieval communities, moments where the bonds of kinship were renewed and where joy triumphed, if only briefly, over the hardships of life. Yet, beyond the fields and villages, the clashing of swords and the roar of battle were never far away. Warfare was a constant presence in the medieval world, a crucible in which the destinies of men and nations were forged. The knights, who rode into battle clad in armor that glittered like silver in the sunlight, were both warriors and icons of a chivalric ideal. They lived by a code that demanded courage, loyalty, and honor, a code that defined their actions on and off the battlefield. They trained from boyhood to become masters of the lance and sword, their entire lives dedicated to the pursuit of martial prowess and the defense of their lord's domain. The tales of these knights, of their valor and their quests, became the legends that shaped the medieval imagination. They were not just fighters but the embodiment of ideals that transcended the chaos of war, a symbol of hope in a world often ravaged by conflict. Stories of their gallant deeds, their battles with mythical beasts, and their journeys in search of the Holy Grail were passed from generation to generation, becoming the bedrock of the chivalric mythos that still captivates hearts today. Their exploits were sung by troubadours in courtly halls and whispered by villagers around the fire, blending history with myth, reality with dreams. Religion, too, cast a long shadow over the medieval world, shaping the beliefs and guiding the lives of those who inhabited it. The church was more than just a place of worship, it was the very heart of medieval society. Cathedrals rose like mountains of stone, their spires stretching toward the heavens as if to touch the face of God. These grand structures were marvels of engineering and devotion, with stained glass windows that turned sunlight into a kaleidoscope of colors, illuminating the sacred space with a divine glow. The faithful gathered in these hallowed halls, their prayers rising like incense, their hymns echoing in the vaulted ceilings, a symphony of voices seeking solace and salvation. Yet this devotion also harbored shadows, fear of divine judgment, dread of purgatory, and terror of the ever-present threat of damnation. Superstitions flourished, and the line between faith and fear was often perilously thin. The hysteria of witch hunts spread through towns and villages, turning suspicion into persecution, and the specter of the Black Death loomed large, sweeping across continents, leaving death and despair in its wake. Entire communities were left desolate, their streets eerily silent, as the plague claimed lives with an unforgiving hand, turning once thriving towns into graveyards. Amidst all this darkness, the medieval city still bustled with life and energy, a testament to human resilience and the undying spirit of innovation. Markets thronged with people from all walks of life, from local farmers selling their produce to merchants hawking exotic goods from distant lands. The aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the spicy scent of saffron and cinnamon, while the clang of the blacksmith's hammer rang through the air. Here, in these vibrant hubs of trade, ideas as well as goods were exchanged, sparking the flames of progress that would eventually lead Europe out of the medieval era and into the dawn of the Renaissance. The artisans and craftsmen were the unsung heroes of this urban landscape. Their hands, skilled and tireless, created the objects that defined daily life, from the humble tools of the farmer to the elaborate furnishings of the nobility. Each piece they crafted bore the mark of their skill, a blend of utility and beauty that spoke to the medieval mind's unique ability to find grace in the ordinary. They were alchemists of the everyday, transforming raw materials into items of lasting worth, ensuring that their legacy, like the chiseled stone of their cathedrals, would endure the test of time. The Middle Ages were not just an era of knights and castles, of monks and manuscripts. They were a crucible in which the ideas and innovations of the future were forged, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. Even as we stand on the shoulders of this past, looking back through the veil of centuries, we see not merely an age of darkness and superstition, but an epoch of light and discovery, where the seeds of our modern world were sown in the soil of faith, struggle, and the endless quest for knowledge. As we move forward into the future, the echoes of the medieval world remind us of the human journey's complexity, of our capacity for both greatness and failure, for creating beauty amidst despair, and for reaching toward the stars even from the depths of darkness. The Middle Ages may be shrouded in the mists of history, but its legacy continues to light our way, guiding us on our journey into the future, forever a part of who we are and who we aspire to become. The medieval world was not merely an age of transition, it was a crucible of the human spirit, a testament to our capacity to dream, to strive, and to reach beyond the limitations of our time. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, even when the night seems endless, there is always a glimmer of light, a flicker of innovation, a spark of creativity, a whisper of hope that can ignite the fires of a new dawn. The Middle Ages may be left behind in the annals of time, but its spirit remains alive, a haunting reminder that even from the ashes of despair, the seeds of renewal and innovation can always arise. As we stand here now, looking back across the centuries, the Middle Ages are not as distant as they seem. Their influence lingers in the architecture of our cities, in the traditions we hold dear, in the very fabric of our language, laws, and thought. They are present in the echo of every church bell that tolls, in the stories we tell of heroes and dragons, and in the dreams of every child who imagines a world where anything is possible. The legacy of this age continues to light our way, reminding us that from the shadows of the past, we can always forge a brighter tomorrow.